returns to you from the British state. Not £1,045 to spend on whatever you choose. £1,045 to cover everything. The rent, the food, the heating, the council tax, the dentist, the birthday card for your grandchild, every single cost of being alive and remaining independent. The full new state pension from April 2026 stands at £241.30 a week, which is £1,045 a month. In most of London, that does not cover the rent on a one-bedroom flat. The most affordable borough in the entire capital, Bexley, averages £1,223 a month for a one-bedroom flat alone, according to ONS June 2026 data. That is £178 more than the pension pays before you have bought a single bag of shopping. But here is what most people are not being told. For a retired homeowner who owns their property outright, the rent problem disappears entirely. And inside Greater London, inside the actual boundary of the city, there are 10 towns where the full arithmetic of retirement works on the state pension alone, month after month, with money left over. Not a fortune, enough. The buffer between an independent retirement and an anxious one. These are those 10 towns. To near Romford, London Borough of Havering. You have probably driven through Romford on the A12, or passed through it on a train to somewhere you considered more interesting. What you may not know is that for a retired homeowner in 2026, Romford is one of the most quietly sensible places in Greater London to live on the state pension alone. Havering is London's easternmost borough. Romford is its largest town, with a population of around 270,000. It borders Essex, and in large parts feels less like inner London and more like the kind of English market town that most of the country stopped having the luxury of about 30 years ago. The market itself has been running since 1247, established by royal writ during the reign of Henry III. 1247. That predates the Black Death, the printing press, and every estate agent currently working in the area. It still operates every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Fruit, vegetables, clothes, household goods, and the kind of stall that sells 3 pairs of socks for £2. Cash is very much welcome. Now for the exact arithmetic. The full new state pension from April 2026, £1,045 a month. Council tax in Havering for a single adult homeowner in 2026/27 after the 25% single-person discount on a Band D property comes to £1,818.50 a year. That is £151.54 a month. Average utilities for one person living carefully across gas, electricity and water, approximately £165 a month. Groceries at the Romford market or the nearby supermarket, approximately £220 a month. The Freedom Pass, covering every bus, every tube, every tram across Greater London, costs nothing. Total estimated monthly outgoings, approximately £537. Surplus from the £1,045 pension, around £508 every month. £508, not a cruise anywhere. A real independent life. The gas stays on. The fridge stays stocked. The Queen's Theatre in Hornchurch, Havering's dedicated professional producing theatre and one of only a small number of such venues in outer London, programmes full theatrical seasons throughout the year. Essex countryside is 20 minutes away, and the arithmetic stays positive every single month. 9 Sutton Town Centre, London Borough of Sutton. 10 miles from the centre of London, sitting quietly between Croydon and Kingston, Sutton consistently appears in lists of the best London boroughs for schools, safety and quality of life. The Telegraph has named it one of the finest London boroughs for retirees. Rightmove users have rated it highly for resident contentment, and those are ratings given by people who actually live there, not by journalists visiting on a Tuesday afternoon. Council tax in Sutton for a single adult homeowner in 2026/27 after the 25% single-person discount on a Band D property comes to £1,783.98 a year, £148.66 a month. Utilities approximately £155 a month. Groceries at the high street supermarkets between £120 and £220. Freedom Pass, free. Total monthly outgoings, approximately £524. Surplus from the £1,045 pension, around £521 every single month. St Helier Hospital sits inside the borough. It is a full district general hospital with accident and emergency services, cardiac care, cancer services, and surgical facilities. Not a minor injuries unit. A proper hospital with the resources and departments that eventually matter to everyone. And then there is Nonsuch Park, the former Royal Deer Park that Henry VIII had built in 1538, where the extraordinary pleasure palace of Nonsuch once stood. The park today covers approximately 300 acres of open grassland, woodland and formal gardens on the boundary between Sutton and Epsom and Ewell. It is free to walk through every single day of the year. In a city where people pay £15 for a yoga class and £40 a month for a gym, 300 acres of ancient royal parkland at your door represents a quality of life that money rarely buys at this price. 8 Bexleyheath, London Borough of Bexley. Bexley is, according to ONS June 2026 data, the borough with the lowest overall average private rent in the whole of London at £1,531 a month. That single figure tells you more about London in general than it does about Bexley. The most affordable place to rent in one of the most expensive cities on earth still costs almost 50% more than the monthly state pension, which is precisely why every town on this list is built around people who own their homes outright. For a single adult homeowner in Bexley, council tax in 2026/27, after the 25% discount on a Band D property, £1,774.50 a year, or £147.87 a month. Utilities, £155 a month. Groceries at the Asda in Bexleyheath, the Lidl or the local market, £220 a month. Freedom Pass, free. Total monthly outgoings, approximately £523. Surplus from the £1,045 pension, around £522 every month. Now here is what Bexleyheath actually contains. The 1930s housing stock across the borough was built by people who understood what permanent construction looked like. Solid brick, proper gardens, bay windows, ceilings high enough to feel like rooms rather than boxes. These are not thin-walled modern flats. They are houses built when construction was intended to outlast the people who commissioned it. And then, on a completely ordinary residential street in Bexleyheath, sits the Red House, a National Trust property that most Londoners have never visited, despite it being one of the most architecturally significant buildings in Britain. Designed in 1859 by Philip Webb for William Morris, co-founder of the arts and crafts movement, it was the first arts and crafts house ever built in England. The Morris wallpaper that decorates the Victoria and Albert Museum was conceived in this building by a man living in this neighbourhood. It is open to the public and managed by the National Trust. The entry price is a detail worth looking up. The fact of it, one of England's foundational buildings in design history on an ordinary Bexleyheath street, is the detail that stays with you. 7. Bromley Town, London Borough of Bromley. Bromley is one of London's largest boroughs by area, stretching from the edge of Crystal Palace in the north down to the village quiet of Chislehurst in the south. Rightmove has named it the happiest place to live in southeast London. The Telegraph ranked it among London's best boroughs for retirement. The Guardian included it on its list of the happiest places in Britain. It is also the borough that contains the #1 town on this entire list, which you will reach shortly. Council tax in Bromley for a single adult homeowner in 2026/27 after the 25% discount, £2,140 a year at Band D, which breaks down to £133.75 a month after applying the single-person discount, the lowest council tax bill of any borough on this list. Utilities £155 a month. Groceries at the Marks & Spencer, the Lidl or the Waitrose, £220 a month. Freedom Pass, free. Total monthly outgoings, approximately £509. Surplus from the £1,045 pension, around £536 every month, the highest monthly surplus of any town on this list. The Churchill Theatre in Bromley Town Centre runs full professional touring seasons throughout the year, real West End transfers, genuine theatrical evenings for around £25 for a good seat. Kelsey Park has a lake, a wildfowl reserve and a model boat club that has been running since the 1930s, free to walk through on any morning of the week. Crystal Palace Park at the borough's northern edge holds its Victorian dinosaur sculptures and the open-air concert space that has hosted music events for generations. Crime in Bromley sits consistently among the lowest of any outer London borough. For a person retiring alone, that is not a statistic. It is the difference between sleeping through the night and lying awake at 2 in the morning listening to every sound outside. 6. Enfield Town, London Borough of Enfield. Enfield is London's northernmost borough, bordering Hertfordshire, with a population of around 340,000. The market has been running in Enfield Town for more than 700 years. The royal charter that governs it dates to 1303, making it one of the oldest continuously operating markets in London. 700 years. The covered arcade in the town centre still operates, the library is still open, the municipal park still has a bandstand. This is civic infrastructure built by people who believed in what they were building, and it has survived everything the 20th and 21st centuries could throw at it. Council tax in Enfield for a single adult homeowner in 2026/27 after the 25% discount on a Band D property, £2,268 a year, or £141.75 a month after discount. Utilities approximately £160 a month. Groceries at the Marks and Spencer, the Lidl or the market stalls, £220 a month. Freedom Pass, free. Total monthly outgoings, approximately £522. Surplus from the £1,045 pension, around £523 every month. The Lee Valley Regional Park runs along the borough's eastern edge. 10,000 acres of waterway, wetland and open space stretching 26 miles from the Thames northward into Hertfordshire. You walk out of your front door, 10 minutes later you are standing on the bank of a river watching herons. North Middlesex University Hospital serves the borough with full emergency and specialist services. Liverpool Street is reachable in around 30 minutes from Enfield Town Station. The important note, as with every borough on this list, is geography. Different parts of Enfield tell very different stories. The areas around Enfield Town itself, Winchmore Hill and Southgate, are where a pension-funded retirement works most comfortably and where the quality of life is most consistently rewarded. 5. Morden, London Borough of Merton. Morden is the southern terminus of the Northern Line, the last tube station on one of London's most travelled arteries. In retirement, being at the end of a tube line is an advantage rather than a limitation. You step on, you go wherever the city offers, on a freedom pass that costs nothing, from a station that is never on the wrong side of a crowded platform. Council tax in Merton for a single adult homeowner in 2026/27 after the 25% discount on a Band D property. The full Band D charge is £2,181.90, giving a discounted monthly figure of approximately £136.37. Utilities £155 a month. Groceries at the Lidl, the Asda or the Tesco £220 a month. Freedom Pass free. Total monthly outgoings approximately £511. Surplus from the £1,045 pension, around £534 every month. Mordenhall Park, a National Trust property right inside the borough, covers 125 acres of grounds along the River Wandle. Watermills that have been grinding grain since the 1700s. Walled gardens, meadows, a rose garden and a cafe in a converted stable block. Entry to the park is free for everyone, every day throughout the year. A retiree in Morden can walk there every morning, sit beside the river and come home for lunch without spending a single penny. The Wandle Trail itself follows this chalk stream, one of London's most ecologically restored rivers, for 12.5 miles from Croydon through to Wandsworth. Kingfishers, grey wagtails and crayfish have returned to water that was industrial sludge within living memory. And then there is the medical detail that matters more than any of the above as years pass. St George's Hospital in nearby Tooting is one of the largest teaching hospitals in the whole of London. A major cardiac centre, a major stroke unit, a Level 1 trauma facility and a medical school. The key takeaway in Morden is not the park or the tube or the council tax. It is what St George's represents for a retiree who understands with complete clarity that proximity to serious medical care eventually matters more than any other item on any list. 4. Harrow on the Hill, London Borough of Harrow. There is a hill. There is a town on it. And from the churchyard of St Mary's at the summit, which was consecrated in 1094 by St Anselm of Canterbury on a clear winter morning when the air is clean, you can see Windsor Castle to the west, Canary Wharf to the east, and the full spread of Greater London laid out beneath you. This view is free. It has been free for 930 years. Council tax in Harrow for a single adult homeowner in 2026/27 after the 25% discount on a Band D property. The full Band D charge is £2,511.07, giving a discounted monthly figure of approximately £156.94. Utilities £160 a month. Groceries at the Harrow Town Centre supermarkets and covered market £225 a month. Freedom Pass free. Total monthly outgoings approximately £542. Surplus from the £1,045 pension around £503 every month. Northwick Park Hospital on the borough's edge provides full district general emergency, cardiac, cancer and surgical services. The Metropolitan line from Harrow on the Hill to Baker Street takes 17 minutes on a Freedom Pass, 17 minutes from a hilltop churchyard to central London. The Hertfordshire countryside begins immediately north of the borough. Greenbelt land runs to the edge of Harrow, meaning a retiree who wants fields underfoot does not need to board a train. They simply walk north, and within 20 minutes the housing gives way to footpaths, hedgerows and open country. Harrow School, founded in 1572 and attended by 7 British Prime Ministers, including Winston Churchill, runs community events and public lectures that are open to local residents, the kind of institution that adds to a town's cultural weight in ways that are difficult to quantify and entirely free to benefit from. 3 Kingston upon Thames, Royal Borough of Kingston upon Thames. Kingston is a proper town, not a suburb that acquired a shopping centre. A town with an identity running back more than 1,000 years. King Athelstan was crowned near Kingston in 925 AD, and the coronation stone, an ancient Sarsen block believed to be associated with the coronations of 7 Anglo-Saxon kings, still stands outside the Guildhall on the edge of the marketplace where it has stood for centuries. Council tax in Kingston for a single adult homeowner in 2026/27 after the 25% discount on a Band D property. The full Band D charge is £2,608.12, among the highest on this list, giving a discounted monthly figure of approximately £163.01. Utilities £160 a month. Groceries at the Marks and Spencer, Waitrose or Lidl £225 a month. Freedom Pass free. Total monthly outgoings approximately £548. Surplus from the £1,045 pension around £497 every month. Bushy Park covers 1,100 acres of royal parkland immediately adjacent to the town. More than 320 red and fallow deer roam freely across land, grazed by herds since the Tudor period. It is less well known than Richmond Park, which means fewer visitors on any given morning and a quieter experience for anyone who values that. Free every day of the year. The Thames towpath connects westward to Hampton Court and eastward toward Richmond, and on the Freedom Pass you can travel to one end and walk back along the river for the cost of nothing. Kingston Hospital provides full district general services, including a 24-hour emergency department, maternity, cardiac and cancer care. The key takeaway in Kingston is the word proper. A proper town with a proper history, a proper high street that still functions as a high street, a proper river, proper parkland, and an arithmetic that still works on the state pension, even at the higher end of the council tax range on this list. 2. Richmond upon Thames, London Borough of Richmond upon Thames. Richmond upon Thames has the lowest recorded crime rate of any London borough, consistently year after year across every measure available. According to the most recent data collated by Eufy UK in 2026 and confirmed by Metropolitan Police comparative data, Richmond records approximately 54 to 61 crimes per 1,000 residents annually, well below the London average and the lowest figure of any borough in the capital. The GLA's own analysis confirms Richmond has the fewest total notifiable offences per 1,000 population of any London borough. For a retired person living alone, that is not an abstraction. It is the difference between sleeping soundly and lying awake at 2 a.m, counting sounds. Council tax in Richmond for a single adult homeowner in 2026/27 after the 25% discount on a Band D property. The full Band D charge is £2,486.10, giving a discounted monthly figure of approximately £155.38. Utilities £160 a month. Groceries £225 a month. Freedom Pass free. Total monthly outgoings approximately £540. Surplus from the £1,045 pension, around £505 every month. Richmond Park covers 2,360 acres of ancient royal parkland and is home to more than 630 red and fallow deer that have roamed here since 1637. The Isabella plantation within the park, a woodland garden of 40 acres, flowers every spring in colours that genuinely do not look like they belong in a London suburb. The view from Richmond Hill across the Thames Valley is protected by an Act of Parliament, the Richmond, Ham and Petersham Open Spaces Act of 1902, as a view of outstanding natural beauty. Turner painted it. Sir Joshua Reynolds lived on the hill specifically to be near it. The Thames towpath runs east and west from Richmond Bridge for miles in either direction. The town centre holds an independent bookshop, a Saturday market and a high street that functions as a high street. For the retiree who bought in Richmond 25 years ago and now owns their home outright, lowest crime rate in London, 2,360 acres of ancient deer park at the end of the road, the Thames on your doorstep, and £505 left over every month on the state pension. That is not a retirement plan, that is a reward. 1. Orpington, London Borough of Bromley. Orpington is not glamorous. That needs to be said from the beginning, clearly and honestly. You are not moving to Orpington and receiving applause at dinner parties. Nobody responds to the name with a tone that sounds impressed. Orpington is a large town at the southern edge of the London Borough of Bromley, closer in character and geography to Kent than to the centre of London, 13 miles from Charing Cross. And it is the single best place in Greater London to retire on the state pension alone in 2026. Here is the exact monthly calculation using verified 2026/27 figures. Full new state pension from April 2026, £1,045 a month. Council tax for a single adult homeowner in Bromley after the 25% single person discount, Band D, £133.75 a month. The lowest council tax bill of any borough on this list. Utilities, gas, electricity and water for one person in a solid brick house, £160 a month. Groceries at the Sainsbury's, the Lidl or the covered market on the high street, £220 a month. Incidentals, a prescription, a haircut, a coffee in town, a birthday card, a replacement light bulb, £80 a month. Total monthly spending, £593.75. State pension, £1,045. Monthly surplus, £451 every single month in London. That is not luxury money, it is the boiler repair fund, the dentist fund, the buffer between an independent retirement and an anxious one, the difference between lying awake at 3 in the morning when an unexpected bill arrives and simply paying it and going back to sleep. The Princess Royal University Hospital at Lock's Bottom, minutes from Orpington, is part of King's College Hospital NHS Foundation Trust, one of the largest and most respected NHS foundation trusts in England. It provides a full 24-hour emergency department, cardiac services, cancer care, maternity services, and the full range of a major district general hospital backed by the resources of one of the country's leading academic medical centres. Pettswood and Hawkwood, managed by the National Trust since 1927, covers more than 300 acres of ancient woodland 15 minutes from the town centre on foot. Veteran oak trees, sweet chestnuts, bluebells every spring, and footpaths that have been walked for centuries. Free to visit every day of the year. The main line rail service from Orpington to London Charing Cross takes as little as 24 minutes on the fastest services, and an average of around 36 minutes. On a Freedom Pass, that journey costs nothing. You can spend a morning at the National Gallery, the South Bank, or the British Museum, and be home in time for lunch without spending a single penny on transport. And there is one further detail that completes this picture. Orpington sits within the London Borough of Bromley, which means it benefits from Bromley's council tax rate, Bromley's crime statistics, and Bromley's infrastructure, while offering housing prices and a pace of life that sit meaningfully below those of central Bromley town. It is the borough's quiet secret, carrying all of the borough's advantages and none of the premium. The key takeaway in Orpington is the same one that runs through every entry on this list. In a city famous for being unaffordable, there are still 10 places where a person who has worked for 40 years and owns their home outright can live a genuinely independent, dignified and comfortable life on the money the state provides. Orpington is where that arithmetic is most generous most sustainable and most honest about what it offers. £451 a month, left over every month in London, on the state pension alone. That is the number worth remembering.